Welcome to another episode of the Rarest Birds in the Netherlands. For the regular viewers, a bit of a different concept, as in this video we count down the 10 rarest birds seen in week 32 in the Netherlands. We also discuss the news in the Western Palearctic and which species to focus on for next week. Let's get into it. Number 10. We start with the barred warbler with the two first observations of the season. A mist-netted bird and another heard only at my local patch by Martin Olthoff. I didn't bother going as the bird was only heard and not seen, so my chances of getting any footage were very slim. At number 9 we have my nemesis bird, the aquatic warbler. But guess what? I finally managed to get some footage. If you want to see some behind the scenes of how I got that footage, then stay tuned, because in the beginning of September I will upload that video. This week multiple aquatic warblers have been found. Notable were 4 together near the Veluwe Lake on the 11th, found by single observer Sven Valkenburg. Next on the list we have the ortolan bunting, of which most nowadays are picked up on nocturnal recordings. This week saw the two first observations of the season, with one on a nocturnal recording and one sound recorded in the field. If you have yet to familiarize yourself with the call of this species, then listen to this recording by Fred Hustings. A short break from the list for some honorable mentions. This week saw lots of observations which sound reasonable but lack the necessary description or evidence. There were reports of probable alpine swift, long-billed dowitcher and red-footed falcon. But if the observer marks his observation as uncertain or any description or evidence is missing, I won't include them in these reports. Noteworthy, however, was the first flyover tawny pipit of the season on the 5th. We also had 2 hoopoes, with one flyby in the middle of the country and another one in the extreme southwest. Then back to the main list. At number 7 we have a species that is easier to connect with, but in absolute numbers rarer than the ortolan bunting, which is the broad-billed sandpiper. This week saw 2 of these beautiful sandpipers, and this week they were actually rarer than another sandpiper that is higher on the list, but for these top 10 lists I do take into account how rare they are over the entirety of the year. At number 6 we find the Pacific golden plover, with a likely new bird at the Lauwersmeer. There was a time most rare birds in the top of Holland were found by birders actually living in the top of Holland. But these last years it is not uncommon for birders from further south to find rare birds here on a day of birding. The other rare golden plover, the American one, was also seen this week with a bird on the Isle of Schiermonnikoog, which lies on the opposite side of the Wadden Sea from the Lauwersmeer, which makes it likely the same bird that was there on different occasions throughout the summer. We then move away from the main list for a minute to talk about which rare birds, based on statistics, you have to focus on in week 34. For week 34 we have Citroen wagtail, mostly juveniles like this bird on screen, from the 20th of August 2016. It is also a good time to start roaming through sandy fallow fields for tawny pipit and wrynecks. Week 34 also gives a slight uptick in the chances of finding black-winged kite, and it is still wading season with, from week 34 onwards, a greater chance of finding redneck phalaropes. It also marks the start of the long-tailed skua season. Number 4 on the rarest birds of the week is the white-rumped sandpiper, with still 2 birds together at Zwarte Haan. Why have white-rumped sandpipers become so much less rare? Are some of them maybe spending the summer on the Eurasian tundra instead of the Canadian? And will we have some suspected breeding records the upcoming years? Interesting stuff. From number 3 onwards, these species are considered to be so rare, observations of them have to be reviewed by our rarities committee. This is the case when over the last 30 years they are seen less than twice a year on average. Although one can wonder for how long they will review observations of lesser scorp, as multiple birds of this species can now be seen year-round. The second rarest bird of the week was another pratincool, but because it was only seen in flight, only black-winged pratincool could be excluded. If it would have been an oriental pratincool, it would top this week's list, but as collared pratincool has 26 records, I decided to put it in second. It could very well have been the bird from South Holland of previous week, as it could easily hide between northern lapwing in the many available grassland fields. Before we finish the list with the rarest bird of the week, we'll take a look at what was found in the Western Palearctic outside of the Netherlands. For this week we go back to Ireland again for some sea watching, as a probable deserted petrel flew past the bridges of Ross. Now, although feast-type petrels are breeding in the Western Palearctic and are seen almost annually in the Northern Atlantic and even North Sea, this one was videoed particularly well by Brian McCloskey. I thought it was a good idea to show you what a flyby feast-type petrel looks like, so you are better prepared when seeing something like this yourself. The total lack of a breastband excludes soft plumage petrel right away, which is in fact a species recently added to the British list. And as the underwings look almost completely dark, this will be in favor of the Sirtras versus Sinos, which has more white on the underwings. If the footage is clear enough to identify onto species level is up to the observers and the Irish Rarities Committee. A seabird that is still considered a mega for the Western Palearctic is the black-capped petrel, although there is some suspicion it might breed in the Cape Verde Islands. Of this species, one was seen flying past Estaca de Bares, and I hope I pronounced that a bit correctly. Sadly, no photos or videos could be obtained. A nice land-based bird was the 6th Kretschmarsh bunting for Finland. The 7th saw the earliest American cliff swallow by a whopping 20 days for the British Isles with a bird on the Scillies, which could be nicely combined by the birders who had booked the pelagic from the archipelago. Is this a taste of what's to come, with in mind the influx of last year? The day before, it turned out the Cape Gull from Cambridgeshire had returned for its 3rd consecutive year. Some belated news was that of a white-tailed lapwing present in Romania on the last day of last week. We conclude this part with some sad news, as the GPS-tagged whiteback vulture that resided in Extremadura was found dead this week. The cause of death is unknown to me. Then back to the Netherlands with the rarest bird of the week. As I told you in the previous episode, back in 2011, both Ireland and the Netherlands had a redneck stint. This year, Ireland got another one, but it looks like the Netherlands also. It is just a shame that the bird was only visible from a large distance and not in complete breeding plumage anymore, making the identification more difficult as key features are barely visible. The question is whether the given evidence will be enough for acceptation, but that is for a Rarities Committee to decide. The finder, and also some other birders who commented on the identification, seem to be certain it is a redneck stint, and little stint can be excluded. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Full migration is only going to get better from here, so don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any upcoming episodes and adventures, and also please hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next one.